Hello and welcome to the channel. A high court has rejected the Department of State Services (DSS) from detaining the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, for a further 14 days, calling it an abuse of the judicial process. DSS won't have done too much. Let's talk details in a bit. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. Court rejects DSS fresh request to detain Emefiele for another 14 days. A high court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting at Maitama on Thursday rejected a fresh application the Department of State Services (DSS) filed for an order to further detain the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), Mr. Godwin Emefiele, for another 14 days. The court, in a ruling that was delivered by Justice Hamza Muazu, held that the application constituted an abuse of the judicial process, adding that the court had no jurisdiction to entertain it. Specifically, the security agency in the application marked FCT HC M 121052023 told the court that it uncovered a fresh evidence that would require it to further retain the suspended governor of the Apex Bank in its custody. It therefore prayed the court to allow it to hold Emefiele in custody for another 14 days to give room for the conclusion of its ongoing investigation. However, when the case was called up for hearing, Justice Muazu asked the counsel that represented the agency, Mr. Victor Ejelonu, to address him on whether the court has the requisite jurisdiction to grant the application in view of provisions of sections 293 and 296 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Justice Muazu noted that the said provisions vested exclusive rights of granting such application on the magistrate court. Following the observation of the judge, who maintained that the High Court lacked the jurisdiction to grant the order, counsel to the DSS, Mr. Ejelonu, applied and withdrew it. It will be recalled that operatives of the DSS had on June 10 stormed Emefiele's Ikoyi residence in Lagos and arrested him. The arrest came a day after Emefiele was suspended as the governor of the CBN by President Bola Tinubu. The embattled CBN boss remained in custody until Wednesday, when he was arraigned before the Federal High Court in Lagos on a 2-count charge of illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition. Meanwhile, upon his arraignment and plea of innocence, the court granted Emefiele bail to the tune of 20 million naira, with one surety in the like sum. Trial Justice Nicholas Oweibo ordered that the defendant should be remanded in prison custody pending the perfection of his bail conditions. Not willing to comply with the court order, the DSS rearrested Emefiele in the court premises in an operation that led its operatives to violently manhandle a senior prison official. While reacting to the fresh request by the DSS for a detention order, Abuja-based lawyer Mr. Namdi Mba argued that the security agency treated the court with disrespect. He said, "You cannot be charging someone to court and yet you cannot obey the same court. What the DSS is doing is tantamount to intimidating the courts." Likewise, another lawyer, Mr. C.C. Nwodu, added, "Ordinarily, when a person is brought to court and takes his plea, it is no longer the duty of the security agency that brought the defendant to court to determine where the person will be held in custody. It is the duty of the courts. Hence, once a defendant is granted bail, except the judge specifically mentioned otherwise, the men of the Nigeria Correctional Service take custody of such person until the bail conditions are perfected. In the case of Emefiele, the DSS practically abducted him from the custody of the Correctional Service and have now filed for an order seeking to further detain him for 14 days, when they have held him consecutively for over 6 weeks and have exhausted the maximum 2 previous orders to detain him for 28 days. No judge, knowing the true facts of this matter, can grant them such application. I am glad to hear that the judge courageously struck out the application," he added. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please turn the notification bell on. Thank you. Meanwhile, The Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, (CERAP), has called on President Bola Tinubu to hold to account those responsible for the fight between the Department of State Services (DSS) and operatives of the Nigeria Correctional Service. DSS operatives and prisons officers engaged in a face-off after the trial of former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), Godwin Emefiele, at the Federal High Court in Lagos. Justice Nicholas Oweibo-led court granted Emefiele bail in the sum of 20 million naira and a surety in like sum. This was after the DSS leveled a 2-count charge bordering on illegal possession of firearms. After the court proceedings, the operatives of the correctional services were moving him to their facility when DSS intercepted and forcefully picked him. A fight broke out during the period between both security operatives in front of the court. Reacting, CERAP urged the Tinubu administration to obey the court order granting Emefiele bail. Tweeting, CERAP wrote, "Breaking. The Tinubu administration must hold to account those responsible for the fight between the DSS and prison officials over the custody of Emefiele. The administration must obey the court order granting him bail and end the attack on the integrity of our justice system." In related news, the Department of State Services (DSS) has commenced an investigation into the clash between its operatives and prison services officials during the trial of suspended Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) Governor Godwin Emefiele. In a statement on Wednesday, the Public Relations Officer of the DSS, Peter Afunanya, described the incident as unfortunate, stating that it does not in any way reflect the professional disposition of the DSS. He said the service has tremendous respect for the judiciary as an arm and institution of government and will not go out of his way to undermine it. Afunanyan's statement read, "The public will recall that Mr. Godwin Emefiele, suspended CBN governor, was arraigned at the Federal High Court, Ikoyi, Lagos, on 25 July 2023. The service has noted the incident that took place between its staff and those of the Nigerian Correctional Service (NCOS) and wish to state as follows. The incident was unfortunate and does not in any way reflect the professional disposition of the DSS. The service did not and would never encourage the incident under reference." That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Bye.